In Akwa Ibom State, outrage over inhumane diets, the principal is suspended.
Wow.
A disturbing video footage exposing deplorable feeding conditions at Presbyterian Senior Science School, Ididep, PSSSI in Akwa Ibom State has triggered widespread public outrage. The video shared by prominent human rights lawyer and school alumnus Inhumane reveals students being served mega portions of watery soup with unappetizing solid food in a poorly maintained dining hall. Effiong described the meals as unfit for human consumption, equating the dining conditions to a concentration camp. Even dogs shouldn't be subject to this, he lamented, detailing the daily meals reportedly served tea and bread for breakfast, spare soup for lunch, and poorly prepared sandy rice for supper. The viral footage, verified for authenticity, has sparked calls for urgent intervention from the Akwa Ibom State government. Effiong directed his plea to the State Commissioner for Education, Mrs. Ididep, and Commissioner for Information, Comrade Inhumane, stressing that students deserve dignity and humane treatment. In response, Mrs. Ididep announced the suspension of the school's principal, Dr. Inse Sunday Umo, and ordered a full investigation into the incident. She also mandated a review of boarding facilities as PSSSI and 25 other boarding schools across the state, condemning the act and vowing to ensure accountability. This incident has reignited public discourse about the state of public education in Akwa Ibom, with many questioning the systemic failures that led to such appalling conditions in one of the state's once prestigious institutions. Pressure mounts on local authorities to implement immediate reforms and safeguard the welfare of students in a state-run boarding school. Mrs. Ogbolu, wow. This is a rising topic. It's been on. You know, the principal of the school was just recently suspended. I think that was on Saturday. So, do you think this is an isolated case of one? I think that's where we should begin. Do you think this structure of this boarding school, this can just happens in just one boarding school across Nigeria?
I'm not sure, because looking at the environment alone, I begin to wonder if that is actually a school. If that is actually a school, not just suspending the principal alone. What is really happening there? Have they tried to investigate very well? What about the contractors that brings this food? The contractors, the ones that cooked this food for the children, where are they? If they suspend the principal, they will not get enough of this information. The
suspension of the principal is because you have this principal there to oversee the event.
I know. He had been quiet, or she had been quiet. So if we don't suspend that alone, what about the contractors, the ones that cooks the food for them? They should all, at least, they should all suspend all of them. Not just suspend, arrest them for this kind of food served to the children. These are leaders of tomorrow, for God's sake. If you start feeding them with this kind of food today, what do you expect from them tomorrow? They will be hungry with the society.
Right.
They will be angry at everything they are doing. And you see them do some things that they are not supposed to do based on the ill treatment they get from the food they eat. How can children eat food, sandy rice? Look at the kind of soup they give to them. Is it really soup? This thing, is it really soup? I looked at it as, what is this? Look at it. What is this, water and oil mixed together, or what?
We've often been on the discourse that what children eat would affect your total well-being.
Sure.
And also go in turn to, showcase their academic prowess, how they act academically, the nutrients they get from this food, right? What does this type of discourse have to deal with? How does it deal with nutrition, as it were, for children?
Even when you talk about nutrition, they are not okay. They cannot think straight. Emotionally, they are traumatized. Because looking at, sometimes when you want to eat and you see the food, you're happy with the kind of food you're served.
Right.
And then looking at this kind of food, you are already traumatized. Psychologically, you're not even there. Hey, what will they bring? What you're thinking is, what will they bring next for us to eat? And because there's nothing you can do, you want to eat that same food and you're not happy with yourself. Even when a teacher is teaching, you're just looking at the teacher, wondering how the next meal will be like.
Why do you think this case has degenerated to this point for these children? Why is it now that there is a public outcry? Is it because there is a video of the situation out in public? Is it because, do you think this has happened because the school in itself was caught with that kind of video? Why is it late for this sort of public outcry on this sort of feeding pattern?
Maybe I feel that there was no video before now, but now that there is, I think the people need to see what is happening.
Does that mean that the schools are embedded with incompetent staff members?
I think.
Because it's impossible that there is nobody on the echelon of power in the whole of that school that has seen this food that these children eat.
That's why I say there are a lot of contractors there. People cook this food. People cook this food and then serve the children. So if nobody there will say, my dear, this thing we are doing to these children, don't you think it's high time we change?
Why do you think that is? Why do you think nobody voiced out?
Because they are collecting the money and sharing among themselves. They collect the money for the feeding of the children and share among themselves. So they will not want to voice out. But I tell you, maybe they don't have children. Because if they have children like me.
Oh, the principal is a woman.
So what do you want me to say? Would she give this kind of food to our children to eat? If you won't give to your children, why give to these ones? Do you know who they become tomorrow? These people are our future. They are leaders for tomorrow. And so you need to treat them well today.
One thing I want to ask is, as an advocate for girls and women, as in your role as what you do, why isn't enough information or enough study being done on how children in boarding school, especially public boarding school, feed? I don't think this is an isolated case as it were. It can be this incident happens in just that school, right? What do you think? What kind of measures do you think should be put in place to, ensure that this sort of situation doesn't happen or is not happening in similar schools?
I think the education system in Nigeria, will I say, the Commissioner of Education in that state, Akwa Ibom State, should look into this matter, because generally, I feel it's not only in that state. It may even happen in my state where I am. But because we've not gotten any video of such. But if we can go ahead with the Ministry of Education and then start going to schools to checkmate.
In talking about the Ministry of Education, do you know this event happened last week? The Ministry of Education has not made one speech as regards this event.
They cannot say they are not aware.
They cannot say they are not aware. The Ministry of Education has not made a single speech. What about NAFDAC? Why hasn't NAFDAC said anything about it?
Maybe they are waiting for proper information.
The video is out there. They are well informed.
Will they wait? Why will they wait now for such? They need to take action. Everybody had to come together. Today is, I think, our 16 days activism is starting today. I know that NAFDAC is there, NAPTIP, who all come together. We make sure we unite to make sure these things are cut out of our society.
Are we going to now say that these bodies have failed, as it were?
We cannot say we have failed entirely, because I know that some of us are waiting for people to push us before we go.
Why are we waiting to be pushed?
I don't know.
Why aren't those people being withdrawn and people that are willing to do the groundwork sent into these offices to do them?
What are you expecting? That's why we're coming to talk. That's why I'm here to talk. Because it is not everybody that will want to. No, it's not like that. This is how it is. We know the right thing to do. We should go ahead and do it. We cannot keep suffering our children like this. Feeding them with whatever they call, I don't know. Some may even have stomach ulcer, pains, and all that. And you see, they will kind them going from one place to another, not knowing it is the food they're eating from the school. I wonder if these children cannot even tell their parents. Don't they have PTA meetings? At least parents should come together to hold meetings on behalf of their children. At least one child should be able to tell the mother, Mommy, this is the kind of food they are feeding with. If children are telling their parents, I think the parents will come together. Did your son tell you about the food they give them? Did your daughter tell you? And then you see parents coming together in one voice and speaking out for their children.
Now, given that, I think this school is actually free.
It's free.
Given that this is a government organization and you'd expect that free education usually trickles down to the poor. People that are well-to-do, people that have the financial means, would most likely not send their children to the schools. Do you think status plays a role in what these children are being fed?
I know. I will not say I don't know about that. I know, but we still need these people. You still come back to us. You cannot write them out.
If this situation happened in King's College, for example,
wow,
do you think the Ministry of Education, NAFDAC, all of the people, do you think their voices would have been more amplified, as it were, like it isn't in this situation?
I think so. I think so. They will all stand up and then begin to do, hey, yes, this is what is happening.
So what role does status actually play in this discourse?
Because status has come to play, bringing down, degrading, inhuman treatment for the poor. That is what it is. They feel that they are high and up and doing, and these ones are nothing to write home about. And so whatever they eat, whatever they give to them, but that's not what it is. You may have, your brother do not have.
You're right.
Your sister do not have. The community where you come from, it's not everybody that has. Some people that have today don't even start like this. There was no opportunity for them to even go to school. Not to talk of having an opportunity to be in school where there is food. So why not help this situation with your high status in quote?
So recently, Abia State government declared that they were going to be running free education and all parents must take their children to school or they risk being arrested and imprisoned. Looking at this situation side by side, what do you think Abia State government is going to do different with feeding? What can they do different with feeding so we don't have similar situations of this magnitude arising?
What they can do is, I think they should get good hands.
Are we saying, are you saying the hands that are handling it are bad hands?
Yes. These ones, the hands are handling these ones, they are bad hands. If they are not bad hands, they open their eyes to give this food that they cannot eat to children. They are bad hands. So they also need, Abia State wants to do, they also need a lot of sensitization.
Right.
Because the parents should know that you don't keep your child, you don't keep your word at home. Otherwise, you will be arrested.
Oh, they have said you'll be arrested.
Yes.
But I want to send my child because the government says, okay, you must send your child to school. I now pick up my child and say, I'm sending you to this boarding school, a state-owned boarding school.
Yes.
What different action should the government take? So I don't send my child to this boarding school and this process repeats itself. This process in Akwa Ibom repeats itself with this sort of inhumane meal.
We're not saying that it's going to repeat itself. So I am not saying that this should repeat itself.
That is why my first question to you was, do you think this is an isolated case?
They are not.
It's impossible. I don't think, if you look at it structurally, how many boarding schools, government-owned schools do we have all over Nigeria? Do you think other schools or the children in other schools are better fed than whatever it is obtainable? Or we don't know of that information simply because, or do you think we don't know of that information simply because there are no videos or pictures to corroborate
Because there are no
facts?
videos or pictures. And nobody had come to complain about this. They are eating, I know. I also had an opportunity with, I think, with somebody from Delta State that they were doing this out-of-school program, giving children food. Nobody had complained. The food, even if it was small, it's okay. And the children were eating it. Not this type. If we had seen that time, we would complain.
Now, from your seat where you sit as an advocate, do you think that this punishment of suspension given to the principal is good enough?
I won't say it's good enough. But
do you think a suspension, the crime of neglecting, as it's where I'm not going to think of the contractors like you mentioned, I'm going to focus on the principal, because when you're at the echelon of events, you have to manage all of these other lower structures underneath your ruling, as it were, right? Do you think that a suspension is adequate? for the poor meal these children are being given. Oh, think about the sandy rice and watery soup.
We call it suspension in quotes. Suspension. Yes. They may not come up to say, this is what we want to do.
Do you think stricter measures should be put in place so that other principals thinking of or probably relating with their children in the same way, with children in their school, as it were, in the same way of this kind of feeding? Do you think stricter measures should be put in place so that this sort of events do not repeat?
Yes, not just the suspension alone, removal. When you remove them, they go back to think about what it is. But maybe the suspension will give them an opportunity to come back again another time to do these things better. Otherwise, with these things that we're seeing.
If we're talking about doing it better, what do you think would have even triggered you, a woman, as it were, to watch this sort of event happen in a school?
If you go and ask her now, she may say, I don't know about it.
I
don't know. I'm not the one that is handling that.
Being unaware of a crime doesn't really...
you know, ignorance of it.
Ignorance of it is not... It doesn't work.
Yes. But we need to also hear from her whether she's aware of this or not.
Thank you so much, Mom, for your insight on that.